Hello everyone, this is Stephanie. Welcome to another video. So today we're going to make this pendant, and this pendant uses that gorgeous 26mm clay art cabochon from beadingschool.com. So stunning. And look at the gorgeous pattern on here. Isn't that stunning? They have other colors as well. I'm not sure what's left, so I will link it down below and you can take a look and see what's available right now. Also, you can get Erica's Signature Box 2025, and this is curated by Erica, and in there you have a choice. You have 3 different choices. You can customize the box. You have different choices for the cabochon, so I'll link that down below too if you want to get the box. The box has a whole bunch of other beautiful beads that you can use some of to make this pendant. I didn't use all the beads from this box, but they're the delicas. There are 15 O's in there. There are all kinds of beads. You can make anything you like out of. So I'm going to clear this off, get a materials list going, and we'll get started. Okay, so materials, this is going to be a little hard to do here. So I put out all the beads you'll need, and what I'm going to do is list everything in the description box below the video for both colors, actually all 3 colors, so that you can really see what you need. Because me just going through all of these right now, you're never going to, unless you're writing things down. So they'll be in the description box below the video. But just in general, you'll need delicas, 3 or 4 colors. You'll need a couple of colors of 15 O's. You'll definitely need some 3mm bicones, 2mm fire polish beads, and of course this gorgeous cabochon. I'll see if I can find some ribbons as well. So again, I'm just going to link everything for all 3 colors in the description box below the video. All the numbers will be there, everything you need, so that you can just look at everything and just, pull everything out or order whatever you need. Okay, let's get started. Okay, let's get started. So thread your needle with about 6 feet of thread, put on a stop bead. You can leave up to like 20-inch tail, maybe even a little bit more. We'll use that tail to do a little on the back and maybe even to embellish a little bit. So I've picked up and dropped down a number of delicas to surround my round stone. Now, if you don't know how many beads you need, there's a great little formula in the Peyote Stitch Companion book, which I have mentioned several times on my channel already. I'll link it down below. Great little book, all about peyote. I refer to it all the time, and they have this super little formula. So what you do is, here's my calculator. I'm going to take the size of my stone, which is 26mm, and I'm going to multiply it by 2.5. And that gives me 65 delicas to surround this stone. If you want to be an even number, I'm going to bump it up to 66 delicas for a 26mm round stone. Okay, so I've put on my 66 delicas. Now I'm going to sew them into a circle by sewing through the first bead after my stop bead. That's going to be, of course, that first delica. So just like so. So here's our circle, just like that. If you notice, it's like a really perfect fit right around my stone. Now I'm going to put on a round of delicas. So I'm going to pick up a delica. I'm exiting here. I'm going to skip one, and I'm going to sew through the following one. Just like that. Put your thumb on it. It'll pull through. Make sure it pops up on the previous bead. So just like that. Do that again. I'm going to pick up a delica, exiting this one here. I'm going to skip this one, and I'm going to sew through the next one. Get my needle in there. So just like that. Put your thumb on it, give it a little pull in, and again, make sure it pops up on the previous bead. And the first few beads are a little wonky like that, but then after a while it just, they all sit into place. Again, one more time. Picking up a delica, exiting this one, skipping the next one, sewing through the following one, just like that. So you're just going to continue that all the way around, and then we'll step up together. Okay, I've come down to the end. I'm going to put one more bead on, so we're going to step up now. So here's my picking up my delica, exiting here. I'm going to skip this one. I'm going to sew through the next delica in line, which would be this one, and then the one on the diagonal, and that's going to step me up so I can add some more beads on. Okay, let's add another round. So I'm just going to pick up a bead, a delica, exiting this one. I'm just going to sew through the next sticking out delica, up bead, whatever you want to call it. It is, but it's that one bead that is sticking out right there. So you're just going to do that all the way around, and then we'll step up. Okay, so as I go around, I'm going to help it curve a little just by holding my thumb there and just getting a little pull inward. See how it's going to start to curve? I mean, it'll curve a lot more once we get the 15-0s on, but we could help it a little bit, just like so. Okay, so finish that, and then we'll step up. Okay, putting on our last bead. So here's my delica. Exiting here, I'm going to sew through this one, and then the one on the diagonal. Just like that. It's going to place that delica right there. And now I finished that round, and I can put some more beads on. Okay, next color delica. So I'm going to pick up my next color, and I'm exiting this delica right here. I'm just going to sew through the next sticking out delica. So just like we've been doing, just using a different color here. You can certainly choose whatever colors you like. So I'm going to do that all the way around, and then I'm going to step up and put another round on. Okay, let's step up. So picking up a delica, exiting this pink one, I'm going to sew through this pink one, and then the one on the diagonal. So that will finish my first round of the lighter color, and then you're going to do a second round of this lighter color. And as you put them on, you can be pulling them in just a little bit. Like so. So finish that round, and then we'll step up and we'll start some 15-0s. Okay, let's put on our last delica. So exiting right here, I'm going to sew through this one, and then the one on the diagonal, just like that. This is what we have so far. Okay, let's add some 15-0s. So I'm going to pick up a 15-0. Exiting here, I'm going to sew through the next delica, the sticking out delica. I'm just going to do that all the way around. Like so, and then I'm going to step up and do another round. Okay, I'm down to my last bead of the second row of my 15-0s here. So exiting this 15-0, I'm going to sew through this one and the one on the diagonal, and now I have that second round of 15-0s on. Okay, this is what we have so far. So I'm going to just leave this thread on the front. We're going to get back to that, and we're going to turn to the back, take the stop bead off. You'll be exiting one of these interior delicas here. So this one, you just want to sew through the one on the diagonal just to get your needle and thread to the outside edge so you can add some more beads on. So I'm going to add 15-0s here. I'm going to pick up a 15-0 and I'm going to sew through the next sticking out bead, and I'm going to do that all the way around. So just like we did on the other side, I'm just going to do that all the way around. Then I'm going to step up and put a second round on, and we'll get the stone in there in between. Okay, I think it might be time to put the stone in. It's not going to stay, but I can see that it's starting to curve in. So I'm going to slide it in like so. I'm just going to hold it in there while I continue to put on my 15-0s on the back. So just like this. So you're just going to keep doing that all the way around. Okay, I'm going to step up here. So exiting the delica, picking up my 15-0, sewing through the next delica, and then the 15-0 on the diagonal. And now I'm going to add my second round of 15-0s on the back. Pulling inward. Just like that. So do that all the way around. Okay, last 15-0 on for this round. So exiting this one, I'm going to sew through the sky, this 15-0, and then the one on the diagonal. Like so. Pull in. I'm going to do just a little bit more on the back. Okay, so we're going to pick up a 15-0. So I'm using a contrasting color here. And we're going to sew through the next 15-0. So exiting this one. I'm going to sew through this one. And do that again. 15-0 through the next 15-0. Like that. So I have two 15-0s on. Now I'm going to sew through, so I'm exiting this one. I'm going to sew through this one and then the one on the diagonal. So these two right here. And then I'm going to add two 15-0s. So one here, the next 15-0, and then another one through the next 15-0. This is going to tighten it up on the back a little because, you know, we have this flat back on it. So you want to make sure things are going to curve in enough to hold that stone. So down to my last bead. So I'm going to sew through this one like that. So I have the last group of 2 on there. And then all you need to do at this point is just sew through these 2 on the diagonal and that first one that we put on, just like that. Okay, I'm going to do one more round on the back, just because I like the back to look as pretty as the front. So I'm exiting this 15-0 here, the group of 2 I put on. I'm just going to sew. I'm going to pick up a 15-0 and I'm doing a contrasting color so you can see it. I'm going back to that pink. I'm going to pop that on like so. And then you want to work your way around to the next group of 2 that you put on. So just sewing through the beads like so until you get to this one. Like that, put on a 15-0 in between those 2. Like that. So you're just going to do that all the way around. Okay, so I've gotten all the point beads on in the back, and now you just want to sew around the beads a little bit, and you can sew through the delicas as well, and then you can clip off this thread. We're just about done with it anyway. Then we'll get started on the front. Okay, so I've turned it around to the front. And I have my thread and needle. And we're going to do pretty much the same thing on the front at this point that we did on the back, you know, making these points. So I'm exiting a 15-0. I'm going to pick up a 15-0. And I changed my color slightly here from eggplant to this orchid color. I don't know if you're going to be able to really see a difference, but we'll see. So picking up my 15-0, exiting here, I'm going to sew through the next 15-0. I'm going to pick up another 15-0. Pull in tight. Here we go. And I'm going to sew through the next one like so. And then I'm going to advance through the next one and the one on the diagonal like that. And And then I'm going to add my next two 15-0s again. So one here and one here. It's kind of hard to see the difference in the beads. A little, you can see it a little bit. And then I'm going to advance through the next one and the one on the diagonal. Then I'm going to add my two 15-0s. So one here. And then another one right here. Like that. So you're just going to do that all the way around. Okay, coming down to the last couple of beads. So I put on one of the 15-0s. Now I'm going to put on the second one. Right there. So we completed the round, and all you want to do is sew through the next 15-0 and these two right here, because you want to get into that, you want to put a bead right here, right in the center. So just like that, and you're going to add your 15-0 right here, you know, to do the point, and then you're going to just advance through all the beads until you get to the next point. Right there, that point there, and then you're going to put your 15-0 on right here. Sorry, I should have done it in a matte bead so you could see it better, but you can see the point coming out now. See that? One here, one here. So you're just going to continue that all the way around, putting that last bead in between the two beads that you put on in the previous round. Okay, I'm adding my last 15-0 in between those two 15-0s right here. This is what it looks like. Oh, that's looking pretty. Okay, let's move on. So it's the next day. I took a little break, and this is what I have so far. So here on the front, so we did sew our thread in on the back, or if you didn't, go ahead and do that. And then on the front, we had just finished making all the points. So all I want to do here, so you'd be exiting right here after you put this point bead on. So here, I just want you to move your needle and thread through this bead. I want you to get up to the next point. So through this bead, so that next bead, this one, and these three. You can do them one at a time. I just want you to be exiting one of the point beads, like so. And then we're going to add some more beads on, but we'll do that in a little bit. So we're going to move on and do a little embellishing around the bezel. Turned my piece around. I've threaded my needle with about 6 feet of thread, put on a stop bead, left enough of a tail to sew in. So I'm looking at where my last round of delicas is situated here before the 15-0s, and I'm going to pop up one. So I'm going to just put my needle through this bead right here, and you're just going to just bring the thread all the way down to your stop bead, like so. Now I'm going to add some delicas. So I'm exiting here. I'm just going to pick up a delica. So I just changed color. I mean, whatever colors that you love. And I'm exiting this one. I'm just going to hop over to the next one in line. So that's like the stitch in the ditch thing. So here we go, just like that. And we're just going to do that all the way around. I'm just going to go from delica to delica, adding a delica. So just like that, so you're going to see it. That's what it's going to look like. So do that all the way around. Okay, this is what it looks like so far. So I'm exiting one of the delicas I put on right here. I'm going to pick up a 2mm fire polish bead and I'm going to sew through the next delica. So just like so. Then I'm going to pick up my 15-0. I'm going to sew through the next delica. I'm going to pick up another 15-0 and I'm going to sew through the next delica. Then I'm going to pick up a fire polish. I'm going to sew through the next delica. I keep getting caught on my, there we go, on my little needle case there. So here, the next fire polish, and then a 15-0, the next one, and then another 15-0, the next delica. So that's our sequence. 1 2mm fire polish, then 2 15-0s all the way around. Okay, coming down to the last couple of beads, so the 2 15-0s. That's 1 and 2. So we're going to go through the delica and then through the 2mm fire polish. I'm headed towards that 15-0, next 15-0. This delica. And then this 15-0. So that's where you want your thread to be exiting. This is what it looks like. Okay, so we're exiting that 15-0. I'm going to pick up 3 15-0s and I'm going to sew through the next 15-0. We're just putting 3 in between those 2, and then we're going to work our way through the delica, the fire polish, the next delica, and the next 15-0. You got it. We're going to put on 3 15-0s through the next 15-0, like that. Just going to do that all the way around. We'll go one more time through the delica, through the fire polish, the delica, the next delica, and the next 15-0, three 15-0s. Like so. So this is what we're going to repeat all the way around. Okay, putting on my last 3 15-0s to make the little point, and I've come through. I went through the 15-0 and then this delica right here. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to sew through this one, so I'm reversing direction like that. And then I'm going to sew through this delica right here. Okay, so you'll be exiting this one right here. Okay, so we're exiting this delica right here. I'm going to pick up a 15-0. Exiting this one, I'm just going to sew through the next one in line. So I'm just going to add 15-0s all the way around again. You know, we're just going to have some fun sort of, you know, doing a lot of embellishing. Just a few more rounds, but it just kind of makes it a little more interesting when you have all these different levels of embellishment. So add your 15-0s all the way around. Okay, last 15-0 through the delica. A pull, and then right up through that first 15-0 you put on. So this is where you'll be exiting. Okay, so we're exiting this 15-0 here. I'm going to pick up 3 15-0s and I'm going to sew through the next one. like so. I'll pop those up a little bit. And then I'm going to pick up a Delica, a 15-0, and a Delica, whichever color you like. And I'm exiting this 15-0. I'm going to skip this one and sew through this one. That's just going to place that Delica, 15-0 Delica sort of in the back, like so. And then I'm going to pick up 3 15-0s. And I'm going to sew through the next 15-0, like that. And then I'm going to pick up a Delica, a 15-0, and a Delica. And I'm exiting this one, I'm going to skip this one and sew through the following one. And you're just going to repeat that all the way around. Okay, last Delica, 15-0 Delica, exiting this 15-0, skipping this one. I'm going to sew through this one. Just make sure they kind of pop in the back. And then, so I'm exiting here. I'm just going to reverse direction and I'm going to sew through this Delica right here. Just easier than trying to really fight your way through. And just want to make sure that those little Delicas, those little 15-0s you put on make a point. You shouldn't have to go around and make the point. They should sort of pop up themselves like so. So at this point we're exiting right here. I want you to sew through this Delica right here. So a couple more rounds and we're done. So just like that. Before we work on the last couple of rounds on the front, you know, where we're exiting the point bead, I forgot to, I don't know, it didn't film or I forgot to press record, who knows. But the last thing we did, we were exiting the Delica right here in the front here. Just add a round of 15-0s on. So I just added the eggplant 15-0s all the way around and then tie off that thread. And then we're going to start working with that front thread. Okay, so I'm exiting that point bead. You know, we had put this thread aside. So exiting right up here, I'm just going to pick up a 15-0, a 3mm bicone and a 15-0, and I'm just going to sew through the next point. So a very easy round here. 15-0 bicone, 15-0 through the next point. Just going to do this all the way around. 15-0 bicone, 15-0 through the next point. So just get that done, and then we have one more round. Okay, last 15-0 bicone, 15-0. We're going to sew through the point bead, so right here, so the next point, and then right on through the next 15-0 bicone, 15-0, and then through this 15-0, just this one, that's right before the next bicone. So this is exactly where you want to be exiting. Okay, we're adding one more bead. I've already started it, but so you'll be exiting the 15-0 before the bicone. So right here, I'm just going to move my thread over this side a little bit. I'm picking up a 15-0, exiting here. I'm just going to sew back through this one, the one I was exiting, so just these two right here, and then the bicone, like that, just holding it with my thumb. That's going to pop that little bead right there, so we get a little picot. Then I'm going to advance my needle. I'm coming out of the bicone. I'm going to advance my needle through these two 15-0s, so I'm not doing that one in the center there. I'm just doing these two, the two sort of cream colored ones. So you want to be exiting the 15-0 before the next bicone, like that. I'm going to pick up a 15-0. I'm going to sew back through this one, the 15-0 before the bicone and the bicone. It's going to place that 15-0 in the middle there to make a little sort of triangular picot. I'm going to advance my needle through the next 15-0 and then the 15-0 before the next bicone. You got it. That's what we're going to do all the way around. So just keep repeating that all the way around, and then we'll be done with this round. Okay, so here is the pattern, the word chart, and here's your bead legend for the bail. So you have everything here. The only thing I changed was this one delica here. It's 0211. And it didn't print properly, so I just put the 0 there. So this is what this looks like. So this is everything to make your bail. So take a picture of it, take a screenshot, enlarge it, save it to your photos, whatever you need to get the whole thing done, and then come back and we'll continue. Okay, here's the chart for the yellow cabochon, and I put the numbers and corresponding letter here because the bead legend on this one, it was different. I couldn't find the same colors, so I just listed the colors here. And as far as the colors on here, they're not true to color, so things might look a little bit different. So go by the actual bead, the legend right here. Okay, so take a picture of this, enlarge it, put it on your in your photos so that you can refer back to it, whatever you need to do to get this whole thing done. I made a very simple pattern for the bail, and I used Bead Tool 4, I believe, and that is a free, I think you can pay for it to get more extras, but I used the free version. I downloaded it years ago, and I haven't had any issues with it. I will link it down below. Use at your own risk. But I have no problems with it whatsoever. So you're going to thread your needle with about 4 feet of thread, put on a stop bead, leave about a 12-inch tail. We may use that tail. I want to have it available. So I picked up and dropped down to my stop bead one of my A beads. Let me look at my pattern. 9 of my B beads. The A is the cream, the B is the lighter pink, and 1 A. This is what it looks like. Okay, now, of course, when we put our next row on, this sequence is going to be rows 1 and 2, right? So we're going to go row 3 now. So we're putting on an A. So picking up my cream bead, I'm going to just skip this one and sew through the pink one. That should place my bead next to the previous one. So just like that. And then I'm going to pick up 4 B beads one at a time. So here's a B. I'm exiting. Let's see if I can get this so you can see it. So I'm exiting the pink one. I'm going to skip the next one, and I'm going to sew through the following one. Like that. When I pull that, that should pop next to that pink bead, just like that. So that's 1 pink. Do the second one, exiting here, skip this one, sew through this one. This is always the hardest part, getting the first few rows on. There we go. You're going to do that again. Light pink one, exiting here, skip this one, sew through this one. That's 3. I'm going to do one more, the light pink. So exiting here, skip this one, sew through this one. Let me move my stop bead out of the way. And because we are doing odd count peyote, we have to do our little odd count turn. So now we're going to go back to our A bead. Pick up the A. I'm just going to sew directly through this A, this B, and this B on the diagonal. I find this is the easiest way to do it. Just hold your piece with your thumb. Make sure that bead you just put on sits next to the previous one. Then I'm going to sew back up through this one, through this pink one, and then the one on the diagonal, the A right there. and then down this one, because you want to be exiting right there so you can put some more beads on. Okay, this is what we have so far. We've done row 3. So now I just flip it so I can, it's just easy to sew in this direction. So we're going to the next row, row 4, so it's easy, 5 of the bee beads. So all we're going to do here is pick up a bee and sew through the next bead, the next delica, of course, which is the sticking out bead there. 2, 3, 4. Again, so last of my bee beads, now that I've gotten untangled. So just like that. Okay, let's go to row 5. So going to pick up an A. And I'm going to do the 4 B's. So, whoops. One. 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to do 1A, but we have to do our odd count turn again. So I'm going to pick up my A bead. I'm exiting out of this one here. Again, I'm just going to sew through this top bead and the 2 on the diagonal. And then I'm going to just flip that over. See how that puts that into place? And then all I want to do is get this thread up here. So I'm going to sew through the one next to the one I'm exiting. Then I'm going to sew through this one on the diagonal and then this one as well. Just headed to that other bead. And then down this one. And now I'm set up to put my next row on. Okay, so we're going to row 6. And after row 6, I'm just going to send you off on your own. You'll have the pattern, so you can just keep going and make it as long as as long as you would like. So row 6, we're going to pick up a bee. So add a bee. And then another bee. Now here's where we're going to introduce the next color, a C. So that's where that's the little flower part's going to come in. So here's your C. And then I'm going to do 2 B's. So that's 1 and 2. And then from this point on, you're just going to continue in pattern. Piece is done, and now we're going to connect. So this is how I'm going to connect. I'm going to show you on the back what we're going to do, but I'm just going to make sure that this, that I'm nice and centered, like so. So I'm going to turn it over and show you what we're going to do. So just to make it easy, and I think I'm going to get a white sheet of paper to put down here so you can see easier. So let me go grab that. So we're going to sew this together a little bit differently than I would normally do. I just think this is going to be easier to see. So I did sew in my tail thread, so I'm working with that end, and my working thread on the bail is still here. So I'm going to attach this center bead right here, so it's in line with this, so this one, to this delica and this delica. So the delica is on either side of that little fire polish bead. So what I did is I threaded my needle with about 1.5 feet of thread. I came through this center delica on the bail right here, and I evened out my thread and put a needle at each end. So we're going to use both ends. So I've evened out my thread. I'm exiting here. I came down with both needles, and I went through the delica that's on the side of this fire polish. So out here and out here. And that's how we're going to initially connect, and then we'll sew either side in. So here I'll give you a super close up so you can see where my thread path is. Okay, so when I pull, it covers everything right now, but I will pull it out. So it's going to attach this bead right in between these two delicas here, so we can zip up. So here, I'll pull in close so you can see where that is. So you see that? Okay, so we're exiting this delica here on the pendant. So you want to you were zipping, so you want to go through this one, so that next one, on the bail. Just do one side at a time, like that. I'm just going to leave it open, and then I'll close it up and you'll see what it looks like. So then we have this bead going here, and this one's going here. So then we want to go back down through the one on the pendant. So this one. Like so. And then we want to go up to the next one on the bail, which would be this one. Just move my thread out of the way. Like so. I'm going to leave the thread path open for you. Here, I'll pull it up actually. See that? And then you want to go through this one on the pendant. Like so. So you see how see that thread path? Goes just like that. And then you want to go through, I'm going to go back through this one on the bail. So I'll just show you the thread path here, but then I'm going to have to tighten it before I go up again. So here you see how that's what your thread path looks like. So when I pull, I can't pull it tight yet. I have to take that out. But you'll see as you go along, this is what the thread path looks like. Okay, so get that part done, and then we'll do the other side, and will be attached on one end. So I've tightened it, and I just want to show you, that last stitch. So here we're exiting this bead on the pendant. So you want to finish it off by coming through this bead on the bail, like that. And then we'll do the other side, and then we'll sew these threads in. Okay, so we're on the other side, and you're exiting, remember that interior, the delica that's on the pendant. So we're just going to do the same thing that we did before. We're going to sew through this one on the bail, and then we're going to sew through this one on the pendant. This one on the bail. This delica on the pendant. And just kind of wiggle your needle in there. Like so. And then in order to finish it off, you're going to sew through this one on the bail. And then you're going to give those both a pull. You want to pull before you do the one on the bail. Here, I'm going to back out of this for a second. You want to pull it tight. Okay, so let's give it a nice tight pull. There we go. See how it just pulls into place, and then come through this one to finish it off. And then you're going to sew both these threads in by sewing around all the beads, and then you will have attached to the bail. We'll attach the bail to the pendant, and then we'll come around and we'll attach the other side. Okay, so let's do this side. So I actually was going to go from, end to end, but I think it's going to work out better if we do it from the center again. So we're actually going to attach this end of the bail to the very end of the bail on this side. I think that's going to be the best way to attach it. So what I did is I threaded my needle with a small amount of thread, put a needle at each end, and I came through this center bead that's right here attached to the bail. So right here, and then I'm just going to fold up my other end so that that center bead lines up with the center opening right here. So I'm just going to sew through this bead, this delica with one thread, and then this one with the other thread. And let me see if I can get the thread path. Let me just pull this through first. So when I pull it, see, that's going to look like, but here's the thread path right here. See that? Let's see if I can get a little straighter. Oh, there we go. Okay, so from here, out here, and out here. Give it a pull, and then we're just going to zip up each end like we did the other side. Okay, so I just did the thread path for you because it's just so much easier than me trying to struggle with it. So again, the same, going through the, up and down, zipping up, and exiting at the moment right through this bead on the end. So get that done, pull it tight, and then we'll finish it off. So here you can pause this now and just, look at it, or whatever it takes to get there. Okay, so we'll be exiting, this bead right here. So you can just kind of connect by going through this one right here on both ends, and then just sew your threads in. We're back and we're done, and I love how it came out. I think it came out so pretty. You can definitely wear this on any kind of ribbon. I like putting this plum sort of wispy looking ribbon on it. I think it gives it a very antique sort of vintage vibe, but you could also do a brighter pink ribbon that will brighten it up a lot. I love the teal ribbon on this one. Look beautiful with a beaded chain, with a gold chain, anything, you name it. This one needs a bail, so but I think it's really pretty, just replacing the bicones in the middle with some pearls. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you pull out some of your different millimeter size round cabochons or round crystals and give it a go. Use that formula, because you might have something that a round cab that's really much bigger and you don't know how to get the delica count, and it just makes it so easy, so you really can go back and just have a lot of fun with all your cabochons. I will link these cabochons in the description box below the video, as well as Erica's, I think it's the Signature 2025 box, which you can choose your cabochon, I believe, with that one. So I want to thank you again for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.